Hey everybody, welcome back. We are back for another bit of spooky fun. So, how are you, Fernando?
We're doing good. We're doing good. How are things out there in West Australia?
Down here in Western Australia, they are good. Although I do realise I wore this last week as well, so my bad, my bad. It's a good shirt, so I get to wear it a couple of times. But
I
yeah,
think I
no,
have the same hat too on.
you know, it's bad when we're wearing the same clothes over and over again.
Let's do this.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to talk about the swinging 60s. Well, not the swinging part, but we're going to talk about what happened in the 60s. And we're going to talk about the Mothman. And everybody knows it from the Mothman prophecies with Richard Gere, but there is a real story behind all of that. And it happened, I do believe, it wasn't too far before Christmas 1966, I do think. In the couple of months leading up to that, people have started citing this thing which became known as the Mothman, a giant humanoid with glowing red eyes and massive bat-like wings, and it was bloody quick from what I read in a lot of the reports and what I've seen on a lot of the videos. So, what do you know about it, Fernando?
Well, I mean, the Mothman, obviously, a moth being an insect, but a lot of people out there are saying that it has a lot of resemblance to a gargoyle. So, regardless, I'm pretty sure it's just as terrifying to see something human like, but definitely not just flying around and apparently cursing an area to the point where what happened in Point Pleasant
Mm.
with the bridge.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stories about that. Some say it's a bringer of death. Some say it's a harbinger of death. They're two sort of slightly different things. But what I gather from all the research I've been doing is that it is not responsible for what happens, but it knows what's going to go on before it happens, and it's there to witness it, to warn people. I don't know, but basically, in the weeks leading up to the Silver Bridge collapse, which happened, and quite a few people died in that, there were sightings of this thing, and there's an area out there called the old TNT area, which is, I think, an old munitions type place, and a lot of people go out there. It's a spooky old place now. It's sort of disused and abandoned, and the sort of place that we'd all love to go, check it out and do what we do. But that's where a lot of these sightings, and I think one of the first sightings was these. It was, I can't remember, it was a couple or two couples in a car, and they'd headed out there for the old, from what I believe, I don't know if it was a lovers lane type thing, but there's a few different reports of the same with different people where they've witnessed this thing, and it scared the absolute crap out of them. So they've gone flying out in their car, and this thing's chased them. And one of the reports was this car got up to close to 100 miles an hour trying to escape this thing, and it was just catching them up. It was flying, but it was catching right up to them. And one of the reports actually had physical, like, claw marks on the bodywork of the car. So they definitely had an interaction with something. I don't know what it was, but they definitely had an interaction with something, and it just goes on from there. There are a number of different reports. I don't know if you've heard of any of them.
Actually, I am, just like you, just googling a bunch of information, and I actually just came across an article talking about the couple. Um, and apparently, there was a sighting also at a, let me see if I got this correct, at an airport, O'Hare Airport. This,
Oh, these happen later on. These ones, but we'll
yeah,
stick to the
yeah, this past September.
we'll stick to. Oh shit, that's not good. Uh, this as in just a few months ago.
Yeah, this past September. This
Oh.
article is fairly new, but yeah. Obviously, the most famous sighting of the Mothman is 1966 in West Virginia, and it does talk about the two couples, driving, spotting a large flying man with 10-foot wings. So
Mm.
I can like it is quite terrifying, to be in a situation like that and not knowing if it's going to be dangerous or not, or if it's curiosity, because just I always fall back into the paranormal. It's one of those things that when people are experiencing something, they automatically just due to fear jump to the worst case scenario.
Well, when there's a flying
And
man behind you with glowing red eyes, where else do you
yeah,
jump? You know.
I, exactly. So what I'm trying to say is uh what is the intent? Because as of right now, like how you said earlier, where it I do you believe the Mothman is responsible for everything that has happened, or is he just a figure to see as a warning, like almost when people are
Yeah.
about to pass away and then people see
Mm-hmm.
the Grim Reaper, let's say.
If you see the Grim Reaper, there's not much hope in that one. But no, I believe, again, from the research, because I haven't experienced anything to do with the Mothman myself personally, I do believe he's more of a warning than the actual cause. And I mean, if you look, okay, we'll head away from Point Pleasant, and we'll keep coming back to it. But he was sighted around the world. There's an actual famous photo of it as well, around the Mothman, around the World Trade Center, only days before 9/11. That there are sightings of him in numerous different places, and it's usually within weeks of a major catastrophe happening. So I don't specifically think he's going there and causing it, but it makes you think, okay, so he's got some sort of foreknowledge of what is going on to be in the right places at the right times or just before the right times, and he's trying to warn everybody by, you see this man, something weird's going on, so I don't know, stay home, work from home for the next 2 months if you can. But oh,
Well, I'm seeing here that there has been 55 plus reports of seeing Mothman in Chicago between 2011 to 2020. So there are a lot more sightings. The most recent sighting was September 24th, 2020.
2020.
2020. Yeah, I mistaken. But yeah, so there are conspiracy theories. We all know how much we like conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jeremy would love it if he was here, but again, hopefully he'll be back with us next week.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Um, Apparently there was sightings of a Mothman in Chernobyl before the
Yes.
nuclear blast.
Yes. That's another one of the ones
So,
I had in my brain, but it just wasn't coming out. But okay. So
yeah.
the Mothman, who is he? What is he? The glowing eyes are a bit of a concern. I mean, if you hear, going back to Point Pleasant, there was this dude that used to live with his dog, and the dog was barking at the back door, and he was in his house, and he went to the back door and he had a look, and it's semi-rural out through that area, and in this big tree, sort of towards the back of his property, he could see this figure which was sort of in a crouching sat position, but it was up in the branches of the tree and it was looking at him, and the reason he could see it because it was all black and silhouetted against the night sky, but the glowing red eyes, which are synonymous with the Mothman, and he saw it, and he said it let out this almighty screech as it took off up into the sky, and he goes, you could feel as the wings, when you wouldn't know when you flap your wings, but you get that air pressure from the wings if a bird flies past really close, you get that. He said you could actually feel it really strong as it took off. There was a lot of strength in it, and he eventually opened the door and the dog went belting out and chasing it, and then he said pitch black. He couldn't see much, and then he heard this almighty shriek. Never saw his dog again. So
Wow.
I don't. You can only be led to believe that Mothman's taken it and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I often think, what is he? What is he? Who is he? Where's he come from? Is he some sort of godlike thing? Is he some sort of a demon-like thing? I hate using that word, but is he one of them? Or is he some sort of alien? Or is he some future being who is coming back and basically sightseeing all the major disasters of the world? Because that would be one explanation for how he knows when everything's going to happen and where it's all going to happen, if it's already happened where he comes from and he's just jumping back to see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess it all depends on who you talk to, because
Hmm.
let's say let's say a pseudoscientist, right, would categorize a Mothman as an alien. So, I mean, if you talk to let's say a cryptozoologist,
Cryptozoologist, yep.
yeah, so they will categorize it as
Cryptid.
um, yeah, or a monster for for back of for lack of a better word.
I mean, this being
But
said, there's not actually any recorded history or any actual factual documentation of the Mothman actually hurting anybody physically. On
which is why I brung up that thing. Seeing something like this obviously is going to scare the
mm,
bejesus out of us,
yeah,
but we don't know its intent because as of right now, it's. I mean, it hasn't really done. There's no evidence suggesting that it killed anybody. Unlike people going missing, uh, um, hundreds, dare I say, thousands of people going missing in the woods, and people are blaming it on Bigfoot.
there's a
But
thousand different reasons for things like that happening, and I mean, we've got one that's going to be coming up soon about a very famous serial killer, and there's a lot of controversy around that particular case, and everybody's heard of it. So we won't say any more than that because we're going to have a very special guest in for that episode when we do it, and it's all about how everything is perceived. Because of the mystery behind it, this shadowy figure, people put stories to it and things like that, and it happens everywhere. These people disappearing in woods. If you listen, I listen to a lot of true crime and serial killer type stuff podcasts while I'm at work, and hearing all of the, I can't believe there's anybody left in America based on the amount of killings that are happening. When I hear about, I mean, there's a few from the UK and there's a couple from Australia, but America seems to be where all the serial killers are, and you know people don't give people the credit for either good things or bad things as much as they should be. Because yes, if you go out into the woods, there's a possibility it could be a bear, it could be a snake bite, it could be a mountain lion, or any of the things that you guys have got there. It could easily be some psycho person who's, or a hunting accident. It could be just an accident while a lot of these people disappear. But when suddenly there are sightings of a Mothman, is it a bunch of people who've been smoking too much? But then you talk about real, when I say respectable people, I mean people that wouldn't normally say stories like that. It adds a bit more credibility to it, and just the sheer number of sightings from people that don't know each other, and these are all reports that came in within a very close period of time where the story wouldn't have quite got out at that point. I mean, obviously it has now, and everybody knows about it. They've got their statue up in the middle of the town square with the Mothman and things like that. But who really does know what he is? It's a big question. It's a big question, and it's
yeah, I
it's one you
mean,
can't answer, really.
as of right now, there's no definitive answer to what it is. Just like the Loch Ness monster or even Bigfoot. Like it's always, uh, um, you see it, but they never leave a trace. Like you just see it at the moment which you question whether or not, if you're special, because it's one of those things. It's like a bird shitting, and if it hits you, apparently it's good luck, right?
That happens every time I wash my bloody car. That they just
No, no, no. I mean, if bird shit hits you, apparently it's good luck. So people who do have these sightings, you know, you you could probably question whether or not either you take it as a warning or good luck or bad luck.
in all honesty, if you go back to that case of the couples in the car and everything back in the 60s, and they're just driving home, and then suddenly this winged man, 10-foot wingspan, plus, I mean, to bring a bit of fact into it, there isn't an owl that is indigenous to that area which does display a lot of the similar kind of characteristics. It's got massive wingspan, and its eyes will glow. I think they do say more yellow, but in certain lights it will give a reddish tinge. And they've actually shown photos of this thing in silhouette, and then when you add the glowing eyes to it, it's very similar to a lot of the pictures of the Mothman. So it could be mistaken identity, but the sheer number of them. And then when you start talking about the World Trade Center, Chernobyl, and I think Fukushima, it was spotted at Fukushima as well. Well, it's not that owl. That owl is not traveling around all around the world doing that. So it's something else, and there's an intelligence behind it to know where it needs to be and things like that. But I don't know. I just don't know. It intrigues me. If you're in a car and this thing's chasing you and you're doing nearly 100 miles an hour, that's like 160 kilometers an hour, and this thing is keeping up with you, that's scary stuff, man. That's scary stuff. Because this thing...
That actually brings me back to think, if there's just one, you know, if he could do 100 catching up with you, you know, possibly not even struggling to keep up your speed, then it's very possible that it's the one Mothman just showing up before disaster strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like disaster strikes every single day.
No.
So he does have time to get from point A to point B, which also begs the question, like, what's driving him?
Well, it's not even so much that. It's if it's traveling from A to B, and there's plenty of time between, why aren't there other sightings of this thing going from A to B? Does he sort of pack his wings away and catch the bus? There would be other sightings as well. And what does he do? What does he do? Does he just go into hibernation until something's going to happen, or he eats a McDonald's and then he goes on a slimming diet so he can fly faster before these events? I know I'm talking silly shit at the moment, but where is he when these disasters aren't happening? Which makes leads towards this whole time travel kind of thing. He's traveling back and to witness these things, and then poof, he's disappearing back to wherever he came from, and that would explain why nobody sees him other than around these places where these things happen.
Let's say he could open portals and jump time, but what if these pseudoscientists are correct that he's an alien? Who's not to say that he just flies home and then just knows when to come back and shows up?
But this is the thing: how does he know when to come back, and how does he know where to go if he's on another planet? Which, again, it goes to the next thing. Maybe not alien as in from another planet, but maybe interdimensional.
What if
playing that game?
The Mothman.
Sorry. Yep.
Is a suit, like a costume.
Yeah.
But what if the Mothman is actually a suit? And we're gonna fall into the conspiracy theory of time travel. But what if it's a suit?
Well, okay. Let me throw something at you. Right? Have you ever watched the show Star Trek Discovery?
Dare I say yes, but never finished it, and it's always like different episodes.
All right. Well, in the first couple of seasons, just before they disappear to the, I don't know, the 33rd century or whatever the hell it is, they started seeing these sightings of a red being with wings. And it was always trying to bring their attention to something bad happening, which is like a harbinger of death, I guess you could say it. And they were trying to track it down, and they'd worked out certain, and this is what scientists could be doing if they wanted to look into this thing, certain readings, and they could predict where it might pop up. And they were able to ultimately track this thing down. And like what you said, this red angel was actually a suit. It was like a space suit that had big wings. And I won't go into the full storyline because I don't want to ruin it for anybody who's just getting into Star Trek Discovery. But it's a very similar concept to the Mothman. Although that does involve time travel as well. Just to add a little bit more into what you were saying. That's why I asked if you actually watched the show, because you were basically describing the whole plot.
That's the first time. That's the first time I heard of the red suit with wings. The first time. I swear to God.
I think it's not in the first couple of seasons, isn't it? It's in like the third season or somewhere around about there where that comes into it. But it's definitely interesting.
Actually, the only thing that drove me to think of that was, talking about the time travel. What if he's a time traveler and he knows when disaster is going to happen, so he comes back to observe the actual disaster happening, and then he goes back to where he came from. Because, I think we could have a whole other show and talk about time travel, because there has been a lot of suspicious pictures that has come to light.
We've done that.
You see,
we've done that one. Go back through the back through the videos, and you'll find that one. But we can do another one. There's always time travel is an awesome. It's an awesome thing. I mean, time travel is possible theoretically, and there were these. I think they were Russian twins astronauts, and they was both supposed to go up to the International Space Station, but one of them did, one of them didn't. And then when the other one came back down, there's a biological difference in their ages now of so many seconds or something like that, because when you go further away from Earth, time slows down, or whichever way it goes, because obviously it's worked around the rotation of Earth. So if you're in the middle and you're rotating nice and quick, if you're on the outside, you're rotating slower. So when you calculate that back out, that person is either older or younger. I don't know which way around it goes, but I'm not a scientist. But it's interesting.
I believe if you're in outer space, time for you slows down, because when you come back, everybody you knew already progressed further into the future.
See, this is the thing, right? We have gone right off top. We've gone away from the Mothman here. We've gone right into weirdness. But time, as we know it, right, it's a man-made concept to measure from one moment to the next. So that we have calculators to do this, that, and the other. And our entire clock is based around the rotation of the Earth around itself and around the sun. And then you've got the seasons and stuff like that, and moon phases and things like that. But it's all based specific to us. As soon as you got on a spaceship and you head out into space, that rotation's not happening. So time is irrelevant to you out there, other than a man-made clock. Sure. You know what I mean? And
that's for sure.
It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing because the whole thing about time travel, they say, is okay. So light travels at the speed of light. Right, which is, I'm not going to work out how many miles per millisecond and stuff like that, but it's quick. I can't run that fast. But what they say is, as you approach the speed of light, time slows down for you, because obviously light's traveling at that speed, and as you're catching it up, you're Actually, you're not catching it up as you approaching because it's still going like that. As you're starting to catch it up, time is slowing down, and in theory, when you match the speed of light, time is standing still. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is only looking at it
I,
in a linear format if it's in a straight line, and then as you go faster than the speed of light, you start catching up, and you see things that you're passing things that you've already seen. In theory, that is time travel because you're seeing the past again. But in physical terms, it's almost impossible to get the energy output at the moment to even come close to that. And in all honesty, at some point you're going to run out of fuel, and you're just going to go right back to normal again. So while in a theoretical linear calculation, yes, time travel is possible, practically speaking, it's very difficult.
I know we went completely off topic, but that is normal for us.
Yes,
But
it
wouldn't
is.
you say that moment when you're realizing, let's say you go, you see things that already happened and you come back, what's the difference between that and, let's say, deja vu?
Well, I don't know. I see we're going into like an entirely, completely different video now. You're talking old Matrix theory and the glitch in the Matrix and how we're living in an artificial construct, and who that could have a bit to do with this, because if we are living in an artificial construct, how do we not know that the Mothman is simply somebody from outside this experiment of our life who's coming in to observe, because they've set about a certain series of events to create a disaster. And he's just an observer to make sure it goes off exactly bing, to go off exactly as it's planned. Next one we're doing is the Matrix theory, I think.
You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind.
I mean, might as well just, make this Mothman / Matrix.
Yeah.
Because honestly, there has been, oh my God, we're like so off topic. There has been a report, and people see pictures of men in black in throughout all history, but it's the same people. Mothman just has wings, and red eyes, but who's not to say these are all within the same group that are observing?
Yeah. And what's not to say that he doesn't fall in the same group as shadow people? There are reports of shadow people with red eyes. In fact, there was a residential case that we did, maybe a month or two ago. We were around there to check out what's going on in there, and they've got photos of shadows with red eyes. I can't share those because they're a residential case, but add the wings and you've got a Mothman. Okay, in this situation, a much smaller version of a Mothman without the wings. So who knows if they aren't part of the similar sort of classification.
Yeah. I do have a question though regarding the topic of the Mothman. Why Mothman if it's just a person, if the description is a human with wings? Why a moth?
Because the descriptions of it's not like a man like you or I with a head and stuff like that. What they say is it's kind of, I'm going to get it so I'm on camera. The head sort of goes down and out like that. So there's no shoulders or anything. The head is part of the body. And if you look at them, that classic image from the Silence of the Lambs with the moth and everything, that's exactly what a moth's body is like. The head is part of the body, basically. So that's where they got the Mothman. So it looked like a half man, half moth.
Well, I mean, the only reason why I question it is because a lot of the description that I have read, I mean, people are saying a man-sized bird. Now we all know
Yeah,
a bird has a neck per se,
yeah,
more so than a moth that is like a fly, just the body with the eyes.
yeah.
Um, but there's no description as far as detail is concerned to that says this man-like creature has a neck or no neck.
Oh, there are
Like it
descriptors
that
that say it doesn't have
really
a neck. Yeah,
does not have a neck,
no, the head is part of the body basically, and there are a lot of descriptions of it being like that. So
which is interesting because a lot of the Mothman pictures or photos or drawings, more drawings, they all have necks, all of them.
I'm looking at a picture right now that he doesn't have a neck. We'll put a few video photos up and
That's what
things like that.
happens when you put two people that are across from the world. I'm in the U.S. You're in Australia, so you guys probably getting.
Are you saying that the American Mothman has a neck and the Australian one doesn't? Not that I know if there is an Australian one. I don't think we've had reports of an Australian. We have the Yowie, which is the equivalent to your Bigfoot, and we have black cats and things like that, big black cats and stuff like that. But other than that, we actually don't have a lot of cryptids.
Are you talking about panthers?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got those over here.
Oh,
and
we
apparently also in Wakanda.
Oh my god. We don't actually have them native in the wild, but there have been sightings of big black cats here. So we're assuming back in the 60s when you used to bring exotic pets in and things like that, and then they got, oh shit, it's too big, so they just let it loose. So there are a few cases of that, but
Wait a minute. They as far as like we can't contain it, so off you go.
yeah, they just set them free. Go. Can't afford to feed you all that meat anymore. It's the same in England. It's the same in England.
I mean, there are certain places over here in the States that if they come across a certain length of an alligator, they'll unalive it.
Yeah, but come on. You haven't seen anything till you've seen a saltwater croc, man. That's...
No, I'm saying like a big ass cat is I'm not one to venture too deep into a place where those kind of animals exist because I like my life. um
Mm.
but yeah, that would be terrifying. I mean, the closest that I'll get to a huge cat would be at a zoo, and there are gates and metal and protection.
Well, they're all perspex these days. So anyway, we're out of time. So we started off with 15 minutes on the Mothman, then we just went completely all over this shot. So we might have to change the title of this one to Mixed Bag of Whatever.
No, I mean, but not for nothing, we did in a way stay on topic with the whole theory that Mothman could potentially be a being that already knows something that's going to happen, which falls under a potential time travel.
Well, that is, in all honesty, that is my favorite explanation for the Mothman. It's some kind of a suit that he wears to travel back in time to witness these events. And I do believe there are actual, even if you go back to like hieroglyphics and stuff from ancient Egypt, even some of the hieroglyphics depict a creature that you could almost say looks like a Mothman. So this thing has been sighted even way back then. So again, to be so specific, I'm going to turn up here for this to happen, I'm going to turn up there for that to happen. Who knows if in the future they don't have some sort of they've invented time travel, but if they've invented time travel, it's already happening now because it's happened in the past and in the future, and they're coming to the past. So while we haven't invented it yet, if they have in the future, they're already traveling back. And maybe it's some kind of, you know how we're talking now about space. Well, I wouldn't call it a holiday. You go into space for about 15 minutes and spend your $250,000, whatever it is. But space tourism, what if in the future it's a temporal tourism thing where we will take you back as a group or as an individual to see specific events happening, you know, the birth of Christ, if that's real, the moon landing, if that's real, you know, the Loch Ness Monster, if that's real. But can you imagine? Well, you see what we have here. We already have a thing called dark tourism where people are going to visit the sites of mass murders or where massive things, even to the World Trade Center, you know, where they've got the light beams and things like that now. They're visiting these sites of mass carnage. What, when time travel is invented, is to stop them from actually sending people out to see the actual event happen, not just go to the location after it's happened.
Yeah, that is a crazy thought. That sounds actually amazing. Just, let's say at a certain point in time in our lives, we're like, you know what, I want to go, let's go see, when the Titanic sank. Not like these idiots, sorry, that got into this submarine, the submergent or whatever the fuck, and
anyway.
And they were controlling it with a game controller.
Yeah, no. Go back and look at our Simpsons episode if you want to find out more about that. No, but actually going back and seeing the actual thing, but the problem you've got, and there was actually a film that, we're going to have to go in a minute, but there was actually a film that came out where they did these things. But what happened was when they went back in time, it projected a walkway that you could walk on. You weren't allowed to step off because the butterfly effect could change something. And this T-Rex they went back to dinosaur ages. And what happened was it came running straight at them and somebody fell off it and squashed a few leaves and there was a couple of bugs and things like that. Then they got back on and ran in. But when they came back in time, those couple of bugs had changed the future and it created this cascade effect where the future was just falling apart and they had to try and correct it. So maybe this suit, if it is a Mothman, if the Mothman suit is some sort of thing like that, and maybe it's some sort of thing to stop it actually physically interacting with our world, even though we can see the suit. Physically, you can't, I don't know. I think if you still land and step on something, he's obviously hit things because he's put scratches on that car. And just because he's done all of these things, he's already interacted and become part of our history.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, how many other things has he been to that we haven't witnessed him at?
Well, wouldn't that be in the future for us, in the past for him?
No, but what I'm saying is we've had plenty of disasters here over the last few years with things going on, but nobody's seen him for every single disaster. So what if he is there, but he's just better at hiding himself now?
Suit upgrade.
Okay, he's wanting to throw it at you, right? So maybe these things never actually happened, right? The bridge collapsed and things like that. He comes back to witness it, and then the Mothman is born because people actually see him with this suit, but it wasn't there before. So he's now effectively become part of history, and then you get your copycats and all these other things. It could be other people wearing the same suit or a very similar suit coming back and not specifically the same thing. I know we're going into actually harebrained places here, but that's my number one theory on the Mothman is he's not an actual physical Mothman-like creature. I believe it's a time-traveling entity of some sort, be it human or alien, and it's coming back to witness a lot of the stuff that happens. And
that is a thought to rest on for sure.
Yep. I think on that we better go because My head's starting to hurt now thinking about all these things. All right. Well, I think we better go. So I'll see everybody next week with something else. I've now got to think about what we're going to call this episode because it's not as simple as just the Mothman now. We've got to come up with something a little bit different. The Mothman time travel / dinosaurs and butterfly effect episode. I don't think there's going to be enough room on the thumbnail for that, so I'll have to work out something. Just be a bunch of random letters.
Hey, it's always an interesting Friday, regardless the title.
Okay, so I hope you all have a great weekend. And hang on, no, these comes out on a Tuesday. Whoops. Yes, we are recording on a Friday, but have a good weekend, everybody, and I hope you like our new little layout. I forgot to mention that. I put it up a couple of weeks ago and I didn't even bring it up. So, have a good one. I'll catch you later, Mr. Fernando.
Have a good one. Take care.
See you later.